This was a really important point in human history. It happened in 1997. Do you know what this means?
Starting of Apple.
Yeah. It was the rebirth of Apple. It was when Steve Jobs came back to Apple in July of 1997. They were about 3 months away from bankruptcy. And he launched this campaign, the Think Different campaign. And he launched it with a media agency, HvA, a media agency that actually helped him craft this story and to bring it out to the public in all the different channels on how you can reach people. Because he realized that nothing remarkable in this world is achieved from following the status quo. That's what this Think Different campaign is about. It's about thinking different. It's really about us. It was about the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the ones that pushed the human race forward. We wrote books about them. We made movies about them. They inspired us. We even let them lead us. But don't be fooled. These crazy ones, they're all around us. Maybe even in this room. You know, as we move from a world of products to services, we're going to need you to think different. As we move from a world of ownership to access, we're going to need you to think different. And as we move from a world of scarcity into a world of abundance, we're going to need you to think different. Because you see, that's what technology does. It turns scarcity into abundance. Literally, the definition of technology is a tool that turns scarcity into abundance. I just said products to services. Can anyone give me an example of what that would look like? Who here uses Spotify? Just about everyone. So you used to buy music in the form of a cassette or a CD. You used to own it. But now you pay for the rights to access music. You go from owning a product to accessing a service. Ownership to access. Who can give me an example? Netflix. Uber. Airbnb. All these companies that we use today. Uber, for example. Instead of owning a car, you access mobility. Netflix, instead of owning a movie or buying a cassette where you could play a movie on, back in the VCR days, now you just stream it online. For the next 25 minutes or so, we'll follow in the footsteps of David Bowie, who was known for this quote: "The future belongs to those who hear it coming," because you see, the future hasn't been written yet. You can't read it. You can look out for it, you can listen to it, because it's already here, but it's just unevenly distributed. And when you look out for it, and that might be in a different country, for example, looking at what China's doing, you can start to see how humans will evolve with technology and bring those concepts back to Europe, for example. We do that in Africa as well. You can see how people are adopting mobile payments and bring that back to the Netherlands and innovate and leapfrog over technology. Who knows who this is? Elon Musk. Who's heard of Elon Musk? Yeah, quite a few people. So he's probably the most celebrated, the most famous entrepreneur on the planet today. So he's, for example, founded Tesla, SpaceX, The Boring Company. He's working on Hyperloop. So that's reinventing mobility. But he's also reinventing energy with gigafactories and Solar City. But he's also reinventing what it means to be human with Neuralink, trying to connect our brains to the internet, make us smarter through brain-machine interfaces. You can go and read up on Neuralink. It's pretty eye-opening when you are looking at the macro. What's human civilization going to look like in 100 or 200 years from now? So while he's doing that, the best minds of our generation are trying to figure out how to get people to click more ads. These are the Googles. These are the Facebooks. Building algorithms to get us to engage, click ads. But we do it as well as a community, as a media agency, as an advertising agency. We're trying to get people to click ads for the business that we promote. And if you guys continue down this track, you're going to be part of this too. So it's about getting people to click ads for the right reasons. Because you see, in a mobile environment, the only ads people want to see are the ads they would miss if they were not there. You see, the mobile screen isn't very big. There's not much room for advertising. And advertising is traditionally an interruptive mechanism. It tries to interrupt you, tries to deliver you a message, interrupt you in your moments, to deliver a message so that you take an action and veer off what you were originally intending to do. So where really good advertising comes in is how can we interrupt you in moments where you need that advertisement, because it helps you get to the place where you wanted to be in the first place. This is Don Draper. We talked about him in the last presentation. So you see, back in the 50s and 60s, it was unheard of that people blocked your ads. They couldn't. When it all went from radio to television and the TV industrial complex, it was unheard of. You could turn the TV off, you could not look, you could block your ears, but you couldn't physically block it with technology. But now you can, because now we have ad blockers. Who here has an ad blocker installed? Half the room, yeah? Who here doesn't have an ad blocker, never installed an ad blocker? Also half of the room. It's about right. About half of us have got ad blockers installed. A little less in the Netherlands, a little more in some other countries that are much more mobile with lower bandwidth, lower speeds. Ads take up a lot of room, a lot of bandwidth. They impede the experience, and so you block them. Who knows who this is down the corner here? He's the oracle of direct marketing. Seth Godin. He's written 19 books. This is a quote from him, actually. Has anyone read one of his books? No? So a little piece of advice. A nice first book to read is The Purple Cow. It's a book about how to be remarkable, how to stand out in the noisy world and get noticed, and how to reach people that care. And through those people, you can start to build a brand or a product or a service through people that care. It's a very good first book to read if you're going to get into marketing, especially digital marketing. It's very noisy out there. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you become remarkable and get people to talk about you? So you see, this is where we've gotten to. 20 years after the rebirth of Apple, 10 years after the launch of iPhone in 2007, we get to this point. This is a COO of AdBlock Plus, gets up on stage last year, a message supported by the IAB. He says, we messed up, we lost track of user experience. See, that's because at the heart of this is that marketers exploit wants for profit. That's what we do. We promote businesses by trying to get people to want stuff. Marketing is turning needs into wants. For that, we tell stories. Advertising is about getting people's attention. Where is the attention? Where can I advertise in order to get people's attention? Because you need someone's attention before you can market to them, before you can deliver a story. And great marketing is when you're readdressing core needs, our core basic needs, from food to water to shelter to security to self-actualizing ourselves. These are needs that we have as human beings. So how can you market to those needs? By creating wants, through telling stories that people already believe in. That's also what you'll get from the Purple Cow. We don't try to modify people's worldviews. We try to buy in, to tell stories that only validate people's worldviews. And this was data last year on the state of the ad blockers. You can see the green line is mobile, the red line is desktop. So ad blockers aren't about to stop. They're being installed at a very fast pace, and it's because advertising has largely become interruptive. It interrupts you. Who here likes ads on their mobile phone? Who here is actually quite annoyed with ads? Who here finds them sort of getting in the way of things? Who here finds them like intrusive, like scary? A few people, not many. Yeah. Depends, you see, because that's what we do as marketers. We try to get data and we try to figure out what you like, what you need, and we try to make sure that those ads are meaningful to you. But we can't do it too much, because if we invade your privacy too much, you start to feel that it's a bit creepy. How do they know that about me? So I'll talk a bit about that later. So it's really, this is what it comes down to at its core. It's about trying to let go of the old and adapt the new. And Michelle talked about it, going from the old to the new. But the problem isn't actually adopting the new. We all want new stuff. That's why we go on holidays, new experiences. We love that. The problem is letting go of the old, letting go of bad habits, letting go of habits that don't help you get to your goal, and trying to adapt new good habits that help you get there. Just like in fitness, you know, if you want to lose weight, you have to stop doing the things that are helping you put on weight and start doing the things that are going to help you lose weight. It's about getting rid of old habits and adopting new habits. And the thing is, they don't live together. So it's often, in order to innovate today, In order to do things today, make time today, in order to innovate for tomorrow, we need to let go of the shit of yesterday. And it's often the shit of yesterday that's actually keeping us in business. So it's about taking risk. Because risk is the new safe. As we're in an era of constant increasing pace of change with technology, because it grows exponentially, by taking risk and trying new things and learning with those things, you actually create safety. By not trying new things and not taking risk and not learning, that's how you become irrelevant over time. So safe is the new risk, and risk is the new safe. And right now for businesses, it's about transforming through this little thing that we all carry in our pocket. Because if they can't communicate through this little screen, and their consumer is going to mobile and spending their digital time on mobile, then they'll become irrelevant over time. And we all know it, you all know it, you're all on social media. If a company's not communicating with you effectively on your phone, then they become irrelevant to you over time. And someone else that is communicating there will take over that relationship and fulfill that need that you had, whether it's buying a house, getting a bank account, buying some food, whatever that may be. So you see, it comes down to this. We're in an era where we're building our relationship through technology now. Literally, that's what we are doing. Even between ourselves, we're on WhatsApp, communicating with each other, on Facebook, communicating with each other, on LinkedIn. These are digitalized versions of our relationships. We're communicating and we're maintaining and building relationships. And brands are trying to do that with you as well. But you don't see the other person when you're communicating through technology. That's why video is so valuable as well, because you actually get to see stuff. Through technology, you have to use the data to understand how the relationship is. Is there love? Is there hate? Is there belonging? Is there trust? Are people doing the things my business needs them to be doing? Are people doing the things they need to be doing? How can I assist that? How can I help them through understanding how they're behaving with technology and using the data in order to improve that process so that they can solve that problem, whatever problem they set out to solve. It's really about this, you know. There's a consumer and you want them to buy something from you. As a marketer, we're trying to get people to buy stuff from the businesses we promote. And the consumer is experiencing all these different touch points, from searching in Google, to behaving in Facebook, to watching TV, to listening to the radio, to walking outside and seeing some stuff around them. And we're trying to put out messages and influence them and tell them a story where their attention is, and slowly pull them in to our business to buy our stuff over the other guy. Because you're not the only marketer trying to promote that particular thing. There are other businesses also trying to do that. And they're all trying to do the same thing and connect to that consumer's attention. Tell them a story that's going to bring them to me instead of the other guy. But it's getting a whole lot more complex, because we're getting into this smartified world where a lot of the products, services around us are becoming smartified. They're having AI built in, smart algorithms that can figure out your needs, your wants, can help you interact with the technology through voice, through typing, through touch. And we're adopting these into our lives. And these are things that can start to understand how we live our lives, and they're facilitating our mobility. The mobility of human experience. It's not our mobile phones moving around. It's us with them. And as we move around, there are digital touch points, from sensors to digital things that are monitoring our behavior. Because that's really what it comes down to. It's about understanding behavior. But marketers ruin everything, remember? Marketers exploit wants for profit. So if we can, we'll do this. We'll keep going in. And even though there might be one marketer saying, no, I want to do it the right way, there are 10 other marketers saying, stuff you, I'm going to make some money. And this is what happens. We start to ping people in every which way. We start to get them to buy stuff. So we're going to enter an era now where there's going to be a lot more regulation on what we can and can't do with data. And you see, technology grows exponentially. It can, it's binary. It's bits and bytes. But we don't. As human beings, we've evolved over millions of years, very slowly. Tedious process. We haven't changed much over the last 50,000 years, but our environment has. And the main thing that's changed is technology in our environment. From the agrarian age, tools, to the industrial age, machines, and now to a cognitive age with computing and information. That's changing around us. And this is exponential. On the one side, you have innovation. This is companies trying to innovate and put really cool stuff into our lives, from mobile phones to cars to planes to trains. These technologies that help us either get around and solve problems, really. But on the other side, it's about adaptation. It's about how do we as consumers, as people, adapt to the technology around us. Also from cars to planes, but the things you have in your pocket, how do you adapt to that? It's taking your time, it's taking your attention. How can you use it in order to fulfill your goals, what you want to achieve? How can you use it as a tool to help you be a better person, do good work? But also as companies, how do they adapt to now building relationships and communicating with a consumer that's got a scattered attention, fragmented attention across so many different touch points, because technology allows that. How can I communicate effectively through this thing? All right, a little exercise. Who's feeling brave? I just need a couple of people. Like, it's really easy. I need 2 volunteers.
You have one here?
1, 2. Okay, come on. You each get a piece of paper. All right, so while they're folding, so what I want you to do is fold this piece of paper as many times as you can. Very good. While they're folding it, I want you to try and take a guess as to how many folds you would need to actually have the thickness of this paper reach the moon. Think about it for a second. How many times would you need to fold this piece of paper in order for the thickness of this piece of paper to reach the moon? How many folds did you get? Oh, then you have to start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't get to 7. Some people can get to 7, but you have to fold it really well. You got 6 or 7?
I think this is 7.
Okay. So you see what happens? What happens? So if I want to get to the moon with this thing, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 8, 16, it's exponential, right? But I run out of resources. I run out of paper. I run out of the ability to fold paper. So I know some of you probably know this. Who can take a guess that actually never heard this before? A number. How many times do I have to fold this to get to the moon? 42 times. If I fold this 42 times, I get to the moon. This is what it looks like. You see, we run out at about 7. At 14, you get to the height of a small person. At 25, you cross the finish line of a marathon. At 30, you hit a satellite. And at 42, you land on the moon. At 50, you reach the sun. And at 100 times, you cross the entire observable universe, 100 billion light years. 100 times. That's the power of exponential growth. Okay, thanks. Very important concept as you go through your careers, because we're in an age of exponential growth. That's how these companies grow so quickly. The Facebooks, the Ubers, the Airbnbs, because they use data, and data is exponential. Technology is exponential. You see, this is what data looks like up until 2017. And much of it is unstructured. And it's growing exponentially. Who knows the difference between structured data and unstructured data? Well, I probably don't really know either. But well, structured data is things that you have in database. It's linked to other things. It's structured. It's your name in context with your address and your social security number. It's relevant. It's in context. But unstructured data might be that WhatsApp message you sent yesterday. That'll be unstructured data to somebody that it's just a one touch point. It hasn't been brought into context yet. It's maybe your movement. It's maybe this recording here. It's unstructured. It's not yet in context. So that's, I guess you could say it that way. Structured data is in context to what that data means. Unstructured data is when it's out of context. And machine learning and AI help bring context to data. You see? But just like you saw with the example with the folding of the paper, in anything with exponential power runs out of resources. In biology, but also with technology. You can see down here is we're only able to actually store a very small amount of this data. But by 2025, we're going to have more data than we can count. So there's going to be a lot of unstructured data there. So 25% of data will be generated and need processing in real time, because we're not going to have the luxury of being able to store this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to exhaust the world's resources trying to store it. So that's why real-time marketing is going to become really important. And that's the era you're going into, using algorithms to try and make decisions in real time based on real data that's happening today. So what is data? Have a think about it. I can bring it down to one word, what data is. Can anyone, I've said it already, can anyone guess as to what data is at its core? Without looking at the what and the how, but the why. Information. It's information. Information about what? It's one word. What am I doing right now? What are you doing right now? The one word is behavior. Data is behavior. So you have machine data. That's actually machines interacting with each other. A phone calling another phone, a computer connecting to another computer. You have human data. That's us interacting with technology. Data is a conduit, is a proxy into human behavior. Through data, we can understand behavior. So data is really the memory of past behavior. Here's a piece of data. Can anyone guess what it is? Over a whole year, something happened. Happened more often at some points, happened less often at other points. It's data. It's relationship statuses in Facebook. When people went in or out of relationship, just simply change their status. You can see that spring break, a lot of people break up potentially or form new relationships. April Fools, I don't know whether that'll probably be a breakup, but every Monday is also there's a pattern there. Summer holidays, people breaking up potentially before they go on holidays. And no one does much in the autumn, but look, just before the winter holidays, and look, Christmas. Very few status updates on relationships during Christmas, because Christmas is a time to nurture relationships, and you don't want to break them on that particular day. So Christmas is the day where people change their statuses the least on Facebook. And you see, but this is all the past. Data is about the past. It's happened already. It's memory. It's computer memory. See, we behave, and data is stored here in our memory. The computer stored on hard drives. So data is about the past, and what we do, we try to collect that data, analyze it, interpret it in such a way that we can try to predict something in the future. So for advertising, it might be starting to understand how you behave, what you're buying, what you like, and figuring out, okay, so what ad do I need to give you tomorrow or next week? Because that's really what it's all about now. It's about analyzing your behavior, and your behavior is reflected through the data that you give to the system. You interacting with technology stores data, using that personal data in order to create more relevant advertising. Advertising that's going to get you to buy stuff and do things in favor of companies. And as marketers, that's what we try to manipulate. We're manipulating this system. And it's becoming a global brain now, because all these mobile phones and apps and bots and cloud and AI, they're all connected because they can be. They're not restricted by resources. We can only see so far. We can only hear so far. We can only reach so far. We've got limitations as human beings, but technology doesn't have these limiting resources. the internet gets rid of time and it gets rid of distance. I can now, with one click of a button, have a conversation with someone in Australia. Distance is no longer a problem. And the internet creates copies. So someone that made a YouTube 5 years ago, no problem, I can watch that right now. So time isn't a problem either. So it solves these things. It's becoming a global brain, and it's going to start to manifest itself in the form of digital assistants. The Google Assistant, Siri, which we've been using on our smartphones, Alexa from Amazon, Cortana from Microsoft. The companies that are building the infrastructure are actually understanding that we are in relationships, and they're trying to create a virtual assistant that's going to have a relationship with us and going to understand us and help us reach all these wonderful things that digital can offer us. So this is what they look like. Anyone using them? Anyone use Google? Everybody? Has anyone not used Google yet? So what do you think Google is? So why do you go to Google?
Sure.
To do a search. Yeah. You've got a question, right?
Yeah.
And what does Google do?
Answer.
It gives you an answer. And Google really is just an assistant. It's a bot. It's a bot that can find you an answer to your questions. And it used to be quite static. You go there and you ask a question, but it's going to manifest itself now in a conversation. Wherever you're having a conversation, you can have a conversation with it. And that's what you're having with Google. Notice that when you start typing things in now, it starts to give you suggestions. It already understands what you want. It already understands your intent. This is what it's going to start to look like. Just like we're chatting, we're spending 70% of our time in chat. Google knows that. Microsoft knows that. Alexa, Amazon knows that. They're trying to come into those environments. They're trying to come into the way that you normally engage in a relationship with somebody, and trying to do that themselves and trying to allow brands into that conversation. It's a touchy point because our relationships are quite personal. So to what point do I allow these brands in? And I don't allow them in if they're going to get there to exploit and manipulate me. But as soon as they're starting to add value to me and helping me get things done more efficiently, save time, then I'm going to slowly allow them in. So it's only going to be the better brands that are going to get in and stay in there sustainably. Right now it looks like this. Soon it's going to look like this. Or this. Or this. This is the Dash wand. It sticks on your fridge and you can just order stuff from it. It's from Amazon. Or this. This is the Echo Dot. Sits beside your bedside table. You can have your alarm in there. You can listen to music. You can cast your Spotify. You can ask your questions. It'll help you with whatever questions you have. You no longer need to fire up your Google to ask a question. You know, you'll be reordering your favorite coffee at a restaurant. You'll be ordering your favorite food on the go. You'll be booking your hotels or your Airbnb on the go within a conversation. You know, you'll be booking, checking into and boarding your flights through Messenger, like KLM does now. Who's used that? Who's traveled KLM with Messenger? Who's traveled KLM and hasn't got into the Messenger stuff yet? Quite a few. Try it out next time. When you're booking your ticket, you can actually check. Send it to WhatsApp or send it to Messenger. Try it. Have the experience. You'll never go back. You know, when you're having a chat with your friends, you can pull in Uber and order an Uber right in the conversation. So last year, I developed a model called Meaningful Connections. And it's really a model about relationships in a digital context, how we're having our relationships online and how companies are trying to engage with us within those relationships. On the one side, it's us. On the one side, it's how we behave with the system. And that's about personal data. That's about our behavior. That's about what we want to give to the system in order for the system to understand us enough to help us solve problems, from getting information to getting from A to B, whatever that may be. On the other side, it's about the security. If we're going to give ourselves up to this thing, then they better keep our data secure, right? Because it's me up there. It's my credit card number. It's my address. It's my relationship status. It's my conversation. It's all the stuff I care about. And if I'm going to give you that stuff, then you better use that carefully in a secure way and don't abuse it, because as soon as it comes back to me in a negative way, you're out. I'm going to disconnect from that relationship. So for the platforms, it's about the security. It's about information security. It's about using people's data in ways that are in the context of the relationship you're in with them. The World Wide Web are linked devices that generate data. The whole thing in one sentence. Why IoT, the Internet of Things, is just because there's a lot of things connected to the internet. Why big data? Is because there's a lot of it. And when you can connect that data in meaningful ways, you can draw insights, going from unstructured to structured, remember? When you can start to connect unstructured data in meaningful ways and bring context to it, it can start to help you make decisions. Decisions on how you're going to service a relationship. And Google was one of the first companies that really figured this out. They realized that information defines who we are. It defines our worldviews. From the moment we're born, even before, to the moment we die, the information we're exposed to defines who we are. And we need that information in order to make decisions and behave. And Google realized that, and they said, well, why don't we just collect the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful? That's their mission statement. So they put up a search bar, and they put the world behind it. And they let you go there and ask them questions. Remember I said marketing is turning needs into wants. Well, they built the holy grail of marketing. Just ask what people want. So we went there and we told them what we wanted. And then they know our intent immediately. And in that moment, they can deliver advertising. That's how Google became so successful. They understood the relationships that we're in, whether it's with them, but usually it's with some other party, and they were able to tap into what's in that relationship. How can I help service that? On the other side, it's about, this is how you build relationships also in real life. Personalization. A relationship is personal by definition. You build a relationship by servicing it. It's not 50-50, it's 100-100. You both service a relationship to the best of your ability. And it's about understanding the other person. It's about empathy. It's about understanding, so how can I help you? What do you want? What can I mean for you? And that's how Google figured it out. By understanding how people behave, what are they giving to the system? Can I measure that? What you're searching, for example? And how can I deliver you an answer? And then if I can get that right, you'll keep coming back and asking questions. So personalization, you do that through data. And that's how you build these relationships. The next point is experience. So information ultimately generates experiences. So think of Google Maps, for example. You're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to get from A to B with Google. It's Google that gets you there. You trust in the relationship you have with Google. You fire out that app. You tell Google what you want to go. But the only way they're going to be able to give you directions is if you allow them to know where you are now. Because if you don't know where you're starting, they cannot give you directions to where you want to go. So that's the deal. Google, you've got the world organized and structured. You know how to get me here, but you can't help me unless I give into this relationship and I tell you my location right now. And that's an invasion of privacy, because when you start to know where people are, well, you can reach them with advertising, for example. So, but we give into that relationship because it generates value for us. So ultimately, these experiences are highly empowering. It helps me get from A to B more efficiently, save me time, save me money, and Google Maps is just one of the thousands of examples out there. And ultimately drives value. In the case of Google Maps, it's efficiency. It's saving time. It's price. It doesn't cost you anything. You pay for it with your data. But with value, that's quite a subjective thing. It's more about managing expectations. So if you want this from me, what do I need from you? And what's the relationship? What's the context of a relationship? So, okay, I can get you from A to B. All I need is your location. But as soon as I have your location, I can do a whole heap of other stuff with that. And that's what Google uses that for. But is the consumer okay with that? So that's where we're getting into the data protection laws now. If you're going to take data from someone, they need to be clear on what you're going to do with that data. Exactly. And that's the controversy of it all. It's hard to define those things. Ultimately, we need this thing for us to live happier, healthier, and more productive lives. because that's what we all have in common. And that's how it becomes sustainable. That's how we go back to this thing. And it's growing. I showed you the Internet of Things. It's growing. We keep using it. It's growing. We keep putting these smartphones in our pockets. We keep adopting this stuff. So it's growing. So it's giving us value until it doesn't anymore. And that's when we start to back off, until it becomes too much, until it's impeding our progress, until it's impeding our health, until it's making us more depressed than happy. That's when we start to back away, because it's not fulfilling this golden rule of helping people live happier, healthier, more productive lives. So we back away. So companies need to build in order to follow this process. And the companies that do are the companies that you're going to enter in relationships with. And the companies that can't do this, well, they'll fall off the spectrum and they'll go out of business. So technology starts off magical. It's Steve Jobs walking out on stage, showing you the iPhone, and we all want one. And then it becomes manic. It's technology pinging us from every which way, taking our time, our attention, pulling us away from the more important things in life. And then it becomes toxic. It's when technology starts to automate things, robots start to take our jobs. It's when we're sitting around the dinner table with family and friends, all staring at our screens, forgetting the important relationships that we're in. So technology is a wonderful thing, but we need to use it wisely. Thank you. Any questions?
Or remarks maybe.
Opmerkingen.
En don't be shy, je kan het gewoon in het Nederlands doen, want
Ja, Nederlands is prima.
je uitstekend als dat een drempel is.
Die data, die gestructureerde data en die ungestructureerde data, dat is me niet helemaal duidelijk wanneer, sorry hoor, wanneer iets nou echt, dus dit is voor mij niet echt een logische lijn wanneer het nou gestructureerd is en wanneer niet. Want zeg bijvoorbeeld dat een geboortedatum is gekoppeld aan een naam, maar als je nou kijkt eigenlijk naar een quote of zo, echt gewoon een quote dat iemand zo ontzettend belangrijk heeft gemaakt, is dat dan gestructureerde data of niet gestructureerde data?
Okay, so you just see the quote.
Yeah.
It's a piece of data. It's some information that you have.
Yeah.
It's structured in the context of the sentence, but it's not structured in the context of who created this quote. Where did it come from? What's its history? What's its story? So as soon as you put an author on it, from Albert Einstein, then you bring it some structure. This quote came from Albert Einstein. But also, if you just look at the quote itself, so it's a sentence, right? What if you pull that sentence apart and you rearrange the words? Then it'll read really weird, right? It'd be a little bit unstructured. So those are the words unstructured. Now, what if you took those words apart and it all became letters, right? Then it would be a bunch of letters, not even words, and you could put that together in any way or context. Now, what if you pull those letters apart and it became pixels? And then it just became some big blur. So you see, that's going to unstructured state. So by making it more structured, you bring it context. You start to give it meaning. Absolute, yeah. So what happens if I said, I told you, okay, 17th August 1984.
Yeah.
You go, what are you talking about? Yeah. What does that mean? So, oh, okay, so this is a birth date. You go, okay. From who? Oh, from so-and-so. Okay, why didn't you say that in the first place? You know, that person brought you unstructured data, and slowly but surely you structured it. So, but you ask questions for that, right? You ask, for example, so what is that? It's a date. Okay, what is it for? Oh, it's a birth date. Okay, who is it from? Oh, it's from so-and-so. So you ask questions to the system that allowed you to bring structure to the data. So it's exactly what we do in marketing. We see all this log, all this data, all this stuff, and then we start to say, okay, so what does it mean? You know, what's behind this data? Oh, it's people clicking on a button. Okay, it's people coming from Google. Okay, or it's people actually purchasing something. Okay, what are they purchasing? And then we start to give it structure, right?
Okay.
Any other questions? What's something that you remember the most from the presentation?
Like the paper to the moon. Yeah.
So you see, bringing experience into bringing physical activity into a presentation, it's really important because it makes you remember. Now you're never going to forget what exponential is. And you're going to come up against exponential concepts your whole career now, because this is the big debate, is how exponential should we let technology be in our lives? Because we aren't exponential by nature. And the more exponential technologies we allow into our lives, the more problems we're going to create, not solve, create. Because now we have to adapt to this technology that we have. Faster and faster, more and more efficient, but we're inefficient by nature. So humans are inefficient by nature, and technology is trying to solve that inefficiency, which takes us out of the picture. So then you've got the whole debate of automation in our workplace. And this is what online marketing, this is a big debate now, is to what extent should these tools be doing our marketing? Because if you tell an algorithm to sell more, they're just going to start selling $10 bills for $5. It's about telling them why. You know, it's about giving them clear and defined goals of what they need to achieve and giving them a framework of how they can operate. You know, it's the self-driving car. There's a 3-year-old child here and there's an old grandma of 95-year-old here. They're both crossing the street. I have no option. I have to run over one of them. Which one do I choose? How are we going to program our algorithms? It's something you're going to be reading up on for the next decade. So I'll make a YouTube, I'll make a blog post, and follow me on. Actually, I missed one little sentence here because I said thank you a little bit too early. The future belongs to those who hear it coming, but only briefly by those who build it. That's an important concept because someone can talk about it the whole time, but unless you actually do something about it, then it's only going to stay at theory. So you can find me anywhere on social. LinkedIn, Twitter is where I behave the most, but I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. Instagram's more private. And you can search me with Chris Baldwin. And if you have trouble, there's a lot of Chris Baldwins. Just put PhD behind it, and I seem to pop up always. So, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.